Hello, and welcome to the first explicit episode of Navigating Adulthood in IDD. In this episode, we talk about how we are adults and express ourselves as such. So please enjoy this unfiltered episode of Navigating Adulthood in IDD with the Wayfaring Band. All right. Welcome back to Navigating Adulthood in IDD. It has been a minute, but I'm super excited to be interviewing Jen and Jocelyn from the Wayfaring Band today. So the Wayfaring Band offers road trips, far-flung adventures, and a fellowship program for emerging social leaders, serving adults who experience intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as neurotypical leadership fellows. We're going to kind of dig into all of that today in our conversation. So to get started, would you both mind giving like a short introduction about yourself and maybe your relationship to the Wayfaring Band?
Okay. So my name is Jocelyn Roy, and I am a board member with the Wayfaring Band. I'm also a band member with the Wayfaring Band. I also co-facilitate the Bike Caucus group. So I do quite a few things with the Wayfaring Band, and I'm also an artist at Access Gallery, and I'm also a Smoothie Bus employee, and so that's my history.
Awesome.
Yeah, Jocelyn, you fill a lot of different roles with the Wayfaring Band, even that alone. Very cool. My name is Jen GaNun. I'm the Programs and Partnerships Manager with the Wayfaring Band. I got started with the band as a fan first. I started going to their fundraisers twice a year. We have really fun fundraisers that are local. And I started going to those parties to get to know different Wayfarers and what they do. And then I was signed up to be an artist in residence. So my first introduction to the band was through their artist program. I actually couldn't fulfill that role because of a health situation that I was going through at the time, but remained a fan and then started working with them in their office and then on the road eventually as well.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, that artist in residence program, I was reading about that yesterday. It's very cool. And like, so you guys have an artist come with you on the trips?
That's right. Yeah. For every tour that we have, we invite an artist in residence to come with us. And they fill the role in adventuring and participating in the conversations that we're having. They're there to be a peer to our adult friends who experience IDD. And then after the tour, they create an ode to their adventure. And it's usually in whatever medium they practice at home, whether they're a dancer, singer, songwriter, a visual artist. They create an ode to their adventure that usually just kind of captures the essence of the tour. And it acts kind of in as like a twofold experience. So it's one, a great reminder of what the tour felt like. And for our friends who were actually on the tour, it reminds us what it felt like. And then it also is something that we share with the larger community. So everybody else can kind of see what the Wayfaring Band is all about.
That's really cool. I'll have to make sure to link that in the description after the episode so people can kind of see this kind of like odes to the adventures.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful program because it can be hard to explain, I think, what the Wayfaring Band does and why it's so cool. Because there are so many different aspects of it. It's very obviously an adventure with friends, but there are so many things and layers underneath it that feel just as special as adventuring. And I think an artist can really capture that. I mean, Jocelyn knows because she's an artist herself, but Jocelyn, you've also seen a lot of our odes where it can be hard to explain what we do, but the artist ode can kind of capture that all in one piece.
So, well, I met a couple of different artists with the I met a couple artists with the Wayfaring Band. So like some of them talk to me about like my history or want to get to know me, and so I relate to them because I'm an artist myself, as Jen said. So it's amazing how whatever they create into the Wayfaring Band, and it's just how they see things. I mean, as an artist, you see things differently than other people would see. And so, like, with me being part of Wayfaring Band, I see a lot of artists that actually become roadies. And
Mhm.
and it's like they really are interested in being a part of it. And then some of them I'm connected with and made friends with, and lifetime friends. But yeah, it's really awesome to have so many different artists. Like, it's not just the visual arts. It could be dance, it could be singing, it can be anything with that's an artist. And so, I mean, with a lot of different people doing their own different mediums, it actually brings the band more exciting and it brings it more alive.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, there's like a cool aspect with the artist that the Wayfaring. I feel like that helps the Wayfaring Band really stand out, is you have like this adventure piece, but like this really rich like creative arts piece that you guys are describing that helps express that adventure and like connects you to community members that are artists as well. So that's just a really cool. Do you guys know where that came from? Like in the development of the Wayfaring Band?
One of the founders of the Wayfaring Band is an artist herself. So I think it was just
Right.
essentially a part of what she wanted to do. And, she knew that artists can be on the forefront of conversation and change. So it just felt like it was a necessary thing to include in our work.
Yeah. I mean, as an artist myself, a musician, I agree. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. To
And
kind of,
what
okay.
Jocelyn said too, that's kind of interesting about the Wayfaring Band. A little bit like my story is a lot of folks get connected to us and fill one role in the very beginning, like a band member, and then they become a co-facilitator of the BIPOC caucus, and then they're invited to be on the board. And there's lots of different ways that people can stay connected to the Wayfaring Band. Um, and just like Jocelyn said, we've had people who have come as leadership fellows or as artists in residence, and then they're invited to be roadies, which are our contracted staff members that keep us all safe on the road. So there are many different ways to start with the Wayfaring Band and then continue a relationship with us.
Right. I love all the different names. To kind of take it a step back too. Where did the name like Wayfaring Band come from? And like as a musician, I think I thought you guys were a band, like a musical band at first. So then but I mean, it's just as cool. So I was like, oh wait, it's different. It's cool.
Yeah, Jocelyn, do you know about that story, how we got the name?
No, actually, I don't really know how it actually started, but I always been curious.
Yeah. So I think what's really interesting is, we have this kind of tagline now where it's, we're not a rock and roll band, but we are a band of travelers. So Wayfaring is just a traveling group of people. But it was also, although it can feel a little confusing, a lot of folks think that we're a musical project. It's pretty intentional, actually, to have this band vibe. Because in our community, a lot of folks with IDD are infantilized, and um, we can talk about like, oh, sweet baby angels, and kind of talk to adults like they're children, and we don't like that, and we don't value that. We value adults as adults, and adults do cool things, and adults do adult things. So we lean into the band vibe because it's kind of essentially cool, to be a part of a band. So, our t-shirts say I'm with the band, and we lean into some of the language that would go along with a musical project like roadies and tour, because we want to highlight that we are, as a group of people that are neurodiverse, we are cool,
Yeah. It's like you're not a rock and roll band, but you are.
Yeah, we got that vibe.
More of a badass band.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. A badass band.
That's
Yes.
right, Jocelyn. Yeah. A lot of what, internally is kind of our goal. And I think what shows when we're on the road is that we are showcasing to the world, we are modeling what it can feel like to be a part of a neurodiverse group of friends who do cool things together. Um, Sometimes it feels like we're the first time that like a community member has run into a group like us who's at a bar having drinks, dancing, partying. And it feels like that's really important, is for us to just showcase this is who we are, we're proud of it, and you can have cool friends like this too, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I made some lifetime friends. I mean, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I have great support system with the Wayfaring Band. It's like, I mean, the first time I ever met them, and it was with my mom, and I was a little nervous. I didn't know what to expect. And then it was amazing. It was beautiful. It was like the first time on my trip, and it was very fun. And then what always touches me is when like my mom passed about almost 3 years ago, and Kendall and Jen and Isaiah came to my mom's service, and they just met me like in August, and my mom passed away in December, and that that always just like sticks with me, because I was going through a lot of family stuff with, I mean, the support I had with them. It was just, I knew that they will always be there for me no matter what. And it still touches me. I mean, I can tell this story probably 10, 15 years down the road, and it just sticks with me. And it's like they they were there for me, and I really appreciate that. And I'm grateful to be a part of the band. It's like, and yes, I was like, yeah, well, I'm whatever you need, I'm here. And so that's why I'm like, I'm always will be there for them, because they were there for me for the toughest time of my life.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Jocelyn. I can tell it's such like a valuable community that the Wayfaring Band has like built.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, you get to travel, yeah, you get to have fun. And then these artists get to like make these odes about the trips, but there's so much more. Like I think Jen, you were touching on that. Like there's these layers to it. And that's such a very deep resonating one, Jocelyn, where it's like these people are there for you.
And I'm always going to be there for them, because they were there for me first, and I'm very grateful that they were there for me. And that was the most touchingest thing. I mean, like, if you need anything, I'm here. And I mean, had Kendall taking me to the airport, and Jen picking me up and taking me to the airport, and for the Wayframe Band stuff, and going, it's just like they're here. I mean, this is legit. And I mean, I will tell people, like, this is where, I mean, if I run into anybody that's like has a disability, um, that you should consider joining this, because this is not just for travel, but it's like you build a family. And that's what the Wayfaring Band is all about. It's building family and building relationships, and you build like lifetime friends, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. It's beautiful. And I had my next question actually was why travel? But I feel like you like answered it is more it's more than travel.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, Jocelyn, what you're talking about kind of reminds me of one of our core values is mutual aid. And we talk a lot about that when we are traveling. We're adventuring together, but we're also having these cool conversations about anti-oppression and our gifts and our needs and how we show up for each other and how we connect with people that are different from us and how we stay connected, things like that, like building community and family. And with one of our values being mutual aid, we really explicitly practice being of service because we feel like that lifts that up and that we can learn to work together, not just while we're actually traveling and adventuring together, but how are we staying connected after and being a support to each other.
Yeah. Well, I love that value of mutual aid. I feel like you don't always hear that term. So I like that, like defined and like just like a very strong core value of y'all. Like it makes a lot of sense hearing like what Jocelyn's saying too.
Mm.
Awesome. Well, another question I had is like, what all do you offer? So you have these trips and they're called adventures. Are they all like big things? Are there like smaller events too?
So the Wayfaring Band does a lot of different variety of things. So like, of course, we do the travel, and then when the pandemic happened, we also did virtual trips and dance parties. We done like we do fundraisers. We're coming up on our 10-year. Hopefully you can come, Bonnie. A 10-year with the Wayfaring Band, celebrating that in November 12th. So it's just that, I mean, it's like more than you can ever imagine because there's always something new. It's never like consistent stuff, but it is consistent, but it's more like there's always something added on. There's gonna be a speed dating thing coming up in November 1st for people with disabilities that are single. That's myself. It doesn't necessarily you have to date them or anything. Maybe just make a friend. Like to hang out with. It's not necessary that either. It's just like and then we have the BICAUCUS group for people of color with disabilities that we talk about different issues, and then everything that we say in the BICAUCUS group stays confidential. So it's like there's always something new coming coming in the Wayfaring Band, but it's always like it's something that's needed. Let's put it that way. Like whatever is needed with the Wayfaring Band, like they try to create that for other people with disabilities because it might not have the same stuff like some people with disabilities have social that has hard time socializing, and then there's some people that are just there's not a lot of options, like some day programs or anything don't offer what the Wayfaring Band does, and so it varies, and the thing is what it will always be is for um people that are adults because this is an adult stuff and we do adult things. We don't go to Chuck E. Cheese and or anything like that. So it's more like adults, and so you're treated as an adult. It's like it's I could call it more of like a social networking kind of thing for people with disabilities that that don't get that and other resources that they probably don't even know, and so it's important to have the Wayfaring Band to be inclusive, and it's non-judgmental. It doesn't matter what religion, your race, your disability is. All it is you come with a open mind and a clear heart, or sometimes a person that has severe depression, and it's like sometimes going to therapy isn't enough, and so going to like one of our functions or one of our trips, sometimes it bring well, not sometimes, but it most likely brings more joy in your life, and some people don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear like it's essentially the Wayfaring Band's creating like these open, accessible, inclusive, needed spaces that you're describing, Jocelyn, and all those cool like different events. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's something I could see there being a need for in the community, like the speed dating. It's hard for any adult to like meet people, and so to have that space that's really inclusive for everybody's need is it sounds like that's kind of the mission of the Wayfaring Band, those social open spaces.
Exactly. And the thing is, what some caregivers or parents don't always understand too is it's not that um it's good to have them there, but then you know sometimes it's like they need to like step back a little bit. So that's why when we travel with the Wayfaring Band, there's no, not to my knowledge, there's no caregiver or no parent traveling with the Wayfaring Band when we do these trips. So it's like it's a little freedom, like space from your parent or your caregiver. And so, like some parents or caregivers are like a little concerned, like, is my kid is my kid gonna be okay, or do is there going to be like any big support? And then sometimes some caregivers are very understanding about that, and some are not. And people with disabilities, we're adults and we have lives, and so it's not like you know people that have that are that don't have a disability, there's people that pay their bills and live on their own and stuff, and so there's some people with disabilities that have jobs and they live on their own and take bills and everything. So it's just like we do have the same thing, but we're also just have a little bit of a need than the others, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, Jocelyn, I totally hear you on that. I think one of the things that's kind of special about the Wayfaring Band is that because we're recognizing that all of us have gifts and needs, and that we want to adventure, we want to do it in a supported environment, we want to offer that to everybody. So we are meeting people where they are, wherever their gifts are, wherever their needs are. We want to be able to serve each other. And when we're traveling as a group, we have our roadies with us. Those are 5 members of our band while we're traveling, and there are trained staff members, and they are keeping us safe. It is their job to be a caregiver in a sense. And it is also their job to be a peer, to be a friend, to be another person who has a need as well. When I travel as a roadie, I'm explicit about my gifts and I'm pretty clear about my needs too. And I will, lean on Jocelyn if I need to, if I need a laugh, some joy, if I need to have some fun, things like that. So we are meeting each other where we are so we can travel without our typical caregivers, parents, whoever is supporting us at home. We're still providing that. It just may feel quite different because it's not coming from our typical caregivers.
And then also too, it makes people, in my experience, like it's more like more open, like like I can say what I want, and I can express what I feel, and not like sometimes, like if you have a strict person that can't cuss can't cuss at the house, cuss at here and
Mm-hmm.
express yourself. It's expressing who you are, and that's what that's all about. And that's why it's important with the Wayfaring Band, with us people with disabilities that need the Wayfaring Band, because there's there's nothing like it in every organization that I've been a part of. It's never been so dope. Like I mean, Smoothie Bus, yes, it's dope. I mean, I just started about a year ago, but we're getting dope. But far as far as like having a person having that freedom to travel and everything is you know you're it's perfect for people that that needs that extra friendship. And there's lots of different things. I'm friends with different people with the Wayfaring Band, people that are with disabilities and one that are non-disabled, and so it brings a very good community out.
Yeah. And I mean, you also had hit a really, I think, important point too, Jocelyn, where it was like, I think a lot of people can relate to, there's just some things that you're not going to talk about with your parents. There's just some things, and maybe you want to talk with other people about it and want to be open and express yourself. But there's just, it's just that relationship, it's just how it goes. There's just some things, no, I'm not going to talk to my mom or dad about that. And yeah, I want to talk to my friends about that. And then, but if that's your caretaker, there's just not that like time or space necessarily, but then the Wayfaring Band can provide that kind of independence away from home, and with that mutual aid that you guys are describing, where you're still meeting each other's needs and getting supports that you need, but like have that little bit of like freedom, so that it can be dope. Because I definitely can relate to, like, yes, there's some things where like at a Thanksgiving table we're going to talk about this, and there's a lot of topics that are not going to be spoken, where maybe if I was out with my friends on a vacation, yeah, we'd be chatting it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of those conversations, they're happening, authentically and just naturally as people
Right.
are meeting each other, getting to know each other. Some of them are facilitated through the Wayfaring Band. We have these intentional conversations throughout the tours where we are opening up space for people to share their experience. Maybe this is an evening where we're talking about what it feels like to be a disabled woman in the world. And, maybe we're talking about microaggressions and how do we cope with that? And what's the root cause of that? And what can we do, especially as neurotypical adults, what can we do to break down some of those barriers and make our world more accessible? So there's lots of space to share your own personal experience. There's lots of space to explore the systems that we live in and what we're doing as a group of people who give a shit to change that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I love that so much, like just creating those spaces that are needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you have both touched a lot on like making experiences accessible and like through that mutual aid. Are there any other like examples about how the Wayfaring Band makes their experiences accessible?
So, okay, so each of us have different disabilities. So, like, when we do like events and stuff, so we have to make sure it's wheelchair, walker, cane accessible. So when we do events or something, so we can feel more inclusive, and um, so everything that the Wayfaring Band is about accessibilities. And so that's a really strong thing that's about. And some trips that we did do that wasn't too accessible with, um and then if it's not accessible, we're going to throw a sticker on you and say you're not accessible. And so so we try to make it more like for people that has these devices, um they to make it more inclusive, and so they could always feel welcome. And so that's the biggest key, is accessibility. That's the number one thing with the Wayfaring Band, is accessibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. what we try to do every year is we usually do 6 to 8 tours per year. There's usually one a month in our travel season, and then we'll sometimes take the month off when we're doing a big fundraiser. So we usually have about 6 to 8 tours throughout the year. Some of them are a little bit more local, are a little shorter in variation. Those are usually for friends that are maybe new to travel without caregivers and new to travel with friends. And new to the Wayfaring Band. And then we have some other tours that are national, international, that are usually longer in time. And I think, Jocelyn, what you're referencing is one of the tours that we had this summer that was very specifically named a physically accessible tour for us. So not all of our tours are going to be 100% physically accessible for everybody. We try to meet individuals and their needs and where they are. And then, real talk, it is not our absolute gift is making every single tour physically accessible for everybody. So we'll meet an individual, we'll talk about what we have coming up, and then we'll say, like, this one sounds like it would be a great fit for you and your needs and what you're interested in. And one of the tours that we did this last summer, it was Seattle, right, Jocelyn? Yeah. So Seattle was our physically accessible tour. And an example of something that happened was that we were in conversation with the hotel that we were staying at for months about needing the, fully physically accessible wheel-in shower, wheel-in, room, having enough space to move around the room with a wheelchair. And they did not actually save the accessible room for us. And that's just one example of the things that we were experiencing as a group that was not accessible. And some of those things are things, we talk about this a lot, that we don't have a lot of control over. Physical inaccessibility in the world, in the way that buildings are made, sidewalks, businesses, anything, there is always a good chance, sadly, that it's not going to be physically accessible for everybody. The thing that I think makes the Wayfaring Band unique is we'll put up a bit of a fight about it. We'll talk about it. And we try to do this with love. We can feel angry about it, and we can feel, upset that the world isn't accessible for all of us. And we do try to meet the community where they're at and use it as a way to learn, as to get better. So, for example, we talked a lot with the hotel and the people that were working there and the managers. And, in the future, this is something that you can do. We're sad that we had to be a learning lesson for y'all. But here in the future, this is some of the steps that you can take, or the moves that you can make to make things physically accessible for us. And so we try to kind of combat inaccessibility with education and an openness to share what we know and share our experience with the world. That may have been a bit of a tangent. I don't know if I'm staying on track here.
It's a shame, because as you started like the hotel conversation story, I was like, oh no, I know exactly where this is going. We spoke to the hotel for months. Oh no. And they didn't pull through.
And there was also a food thing going on over there too. Certain people can't even take down the damn hamburger bun just to say, can't you not do gluten and stuff. And so that was another challenge too. And it's like, people don't understand, you could take down a hamburger bun, and you don't cook with the hamburger bun with the meat. That's probably not even that's unsanitary too. And you could just take it off, just remove it. It's not the biggest fucking big deal in the world. But that's why that place is called Dick's. So that's why I was like, well, that's why it's called dicks. They're dicks, so they hire actual assholes in there.
It's a
So,
requirement.
yeah, so that's why it's called the way it's called. But yeah, seriously, like, like things like that. I mean, with the Wayfaring, we can't, like Jen said, we can't control everything. There's certain things like when the ferry thing and had to walk another block to just get an elevator. I'm like, this it's just like things like that we can't control. I mean, you didn't know, so it's shit like that, basically. Um, Things like that. So we, so I guess I can just say we kind of accommodate what we can accommodate, if that makes any sense. So, I should have, thanks for correcting that for me, Jen, because I assumed that it was like accessible stuff you guys do, but then you guys can't control everything, you know, and so
Mhm.
that's a good correction in my part too. So
Well, Jocelyn, I think it also highlights something about accessibility is that it would be nice if there was a, one size fits all with everything, because wouldn't that be so easy? But but the truth is that that's not accessibility. We all have very different needs, and your needs may likely be different from my needs. So, that's why we talk about accessibility is really on an individual basis. And that may include physicality. It may include dietary restrictions. It may include sense. It may include so many different things that may not always be at the forefront of our thinking when it comes to accessibility. But we do try, especially with our local events, because Jocelyn, you were spot on about that. With our local events, we do try our very best to make it completely accessible. And by that, we will have a sign language interpreter there. We will have it be a physically accessible space where people can get to the event, to the restrooms, to all of the spaces that you would need to get to in order to be successful in an environment. We'll have dietary options, and we'll consider all of the differences with that as well. So we do try really hard to meet all of the needs, and we recognize that nobody is perfect, and we're going to continue to humble ourselves, and we're going to continue to be learning what it actually means to be accessible. And we have a commitment to keep trying and to keep getting better.
and we're gonna keep getting better. Each and every time we're gonna keep it being better, because not. I mean, like, we can't control everything, but and we're gonna be learning as we're going. Not everything that we do is consistent, but we're gonna like try to do what we can, if that makes any sense.
It does. It makes a ton of sense. And what I'm hearing too is that the Wayfaring Band really values accessibility, creates these accessible spaces, and then when things aren't in your control, you advocate, you fight for accessibility, and you even process like the ableist society that we're in, like having those discussions too of like, we did the best we could here, and still there's these systems that we're continuing to fight, but hopefully get better and help society improve too.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Well, kind of winding down a bit. How about let's switch gears and we can kind of talk about some exciting things like what trips have stood out to you?
Ooh. Oh, even though it was a kind of exciting trip, was Seattle. Even though, I mean, it was fun overall. Seattle was like, cause there's another board member that lives in Seattle, and so I got a chance to meet her in person, and then getting to spend time with her, and then we have something in common that we have, and then also with my other trip was, man, so Ann Arbor trip. So like when we took that was my first trip with the Wayfaring Band. So we took the train to Chicago, and then Chicago to Ann Arbor, and then same thing back. And so what stood out to me was like, I really wanted to visit Chicago, and we couldn't go outside because the bags and everything. And so what stood out to me was like, I'm gonna go visit it, and then I finally did go visit Chicago about like last week. And things like when we do trips and stuff, and I would like to things like I like to go back on my own and just experience it myself too. For my birthday, I plan on going to Seattle for my birthday. But things like trips and everything, like it makes you want to, like, if you see it once, then it makes you want to go back and visit it again, and then see a different perspective, I guess you can say,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to continue on traveling with the Wayfaring Band as much as possible. Um, so I mean, there's like it's limited because it's like limited to like maybe 8 people, 8 to 10 people, right, Jen?
We travel with a total of 16 people.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so and there's so many band members, and so we try to get as many people that is interested in the trip, and so we won't uh, expose our trips till like when we do the fundraiser. So that's when we know when the trips are, and so like I will continue on traveling with the Wayfaring Band and doing all the good and all the fun stuff, and then the trips are very memorable, and it makes you want to like tell people, oh, this is a good place, excuse me, a good place to visit. And so every trip that I've been on, I want to continue to visit again. So
Yeah, Jocelyn already said it, but we're going to do a soft release of the tours that we have coming up for next year at our greatest hit party. So, like Jocelyn already said, it is November 12th from 5:30 to 9 p.m. That's a Saturday evening. And it's at the Fieldhouse event venue in Denver on Federal Boulevard. And at that event is when we're going to do our soft release of all the tours next year. And then usually by December, we'll have it up on our website for people to be actually officially signing up for those tours. So if you want to know where we're going next year, you should come to that event.
Yes. Awesome. And I'll make sure to link that in the description
Great.
too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I guess kind of wrapping up, is there anything else that you would like to share?
I want to convince other people with disabilities to travel with the Wayfaring Band experience. And so, like, if you have a person that has a disability that's like antisocial, this is a place to be, and some reason it opens you up because you're around your own peers. So I really encourage a lot of people to check out the Wayfaring Band, even if you're not interested in just traveling with the Wayfaring Band. I would encourage you to do like anything, like we do other things like at the bike caucus, speed dating, etc., etc. And so whatever comes up, try to come to the Wayfaring Band's events.
Yeah, thanks, Jocelyn. I would agree. I would encourage anybody, especially an adult who is interested in anything the Wayfaring Band does, travel, adventure, inclusion, community, diversity. If you're interested in any of those things, holler at us. You can email us, you can call us, let us know. We'll set up a meeting. You can come to our events. Our events are family friendly too. So if you have young people in your life and you want to bring them along, that's a good place for younger people to come experience what the Wayfaring Band is all about too, is our local fundraisers.
Perfect. Well, thank you both for sharing. And are there, or where can listeners find out more about the Wayfaring Band?
You can go to our website, thewayfaringband.com. There's lots of really fun videos that showcase what different travelers are all about and what our tours might look like. All of our artist odes are there. And then eventually all of our tours will be there too.
Awesome. So exciting. But yeah, I'll make sure to put all of that in the description, your upcoming event. Yeah, so that people can learn more. Thank you both so much for coming on today and for not only, I feel like, sharing the spirit of the Wayfaring Band and the badass aspects of it, but like really thank you both for like sharing your experiences about like accessibility and kind of like the harder sides of some of these things too, of wanting to be treated like an adult. I think these discussions are important, and I'm excited to share it with the community.
Awesome. Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Bonnie. Hopefully we run into you again. Hopefully you booked something with the smoothie bus.
Yes.
Okay.
I love the smoothie bus. I'll plug that into the podcast too. I love the smoothie bus. I am like smoothie bus fan number one.
I think I'm smoothie bus fan number one.
Okay, I'll be two.
I'll be three.
Perfect. I hope that you enjoyed that conversation with Jen and Jocelyn as much as I did. It was really nice getting to know them more and getting to know more about the Wayfaring Band. And I really just enjoyed the highlighting of the Wayfaring Band as a community that celebrates inclusivity, support, adventure, accessibility, and creativity. I also enjoyed how we talked about how adults are adults, and the Wayfaring Band shows that in their kind of band, rock band vibe that they have, promoting independence through not only their community, but upcoming events such as the speed dating that they just had. I hope that you will support and follow the Wayfaring Band. Please check out the show notes for their social media and their website, as well as upcoming events, including their upcoming fundraiser, the Wayfaring Band's Greatest Hits, 10 Years of Tours, a celebration. It is on Saturday, November 12th at 5:30 p.m. at the Field House in Denver, Colorado. Check out the description to get tickets, to donate to them. And if you are an adult with disabilities, like Jocelyn said, consider joining the Wayfaring Band, joining that community that they're growing and learning and thriving in. Thanks again to the Wayfaring Band for coming on today. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please share it with somebody you think would enjoy listening to it. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/navigating-adulthood in IDD. For $5 a month, you get access to previous session plans that were created monthly. So there's at least 24 plans at least. So check those out for some resources for music therapists for working with adults with IDD. And it also supports the podcast, and you can totally sign up, get what you need, and unsubscribe at any time. Thanks again for listening, and I will catch you in the next episode. This podcast is by Rhythmic Roots Music Services, LLC, with content and music produced by Bonnie Haupt. Thanks for listening.